Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Steelers' $37.5 million vet seems destined to be cut, says writer. As they reshape their roster in 2025, the Pittsburgh Steelers will first need to free up some more cap space, and one cut seems relatively obvious. Both Bleacher Report and Pro Football Network identified veteran edge rusher Preston Smith as one of the Steelers' top cut candidates ahead of NFL free agency. The Steelers only gave up a seventh-round pick to acquire Preston Smith ahead of the trade deadline this season, Bleacher Report's Alex Ballentine reasoned on January 20. The veteran pass rusher ended up playing 161 defensive snaps in 8 games for the Steelers and was inactive for the team's playoff game against the Baltimore Ravens. That's as good an indication as any that the Steelers won't have Smith on their roster next season, the NFL writer continued. They can wipe the entire $13.4 million cap hit off their books by cutting him. Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt are a strong pass-rushing duo, and that's a lot of money to give a third edge rusher. Ballentine concluded that the 32-year-old seems destined for free agency. Similarly, Pro Football Network's Ben Rolfe wrote that Smith being cut by the Pittsburgh Steelers may end up being one of the easier moves of the offseason on January 26. The pass rusher was a mid-season acquisition by the Steelers, but the numbers were mediocre, to say the least, Rolfe noted. Smith had just 2 pressures and 2 sacks in 8 games with the Steelers while racking up 13 tackles. Being traded in the middle of the season is tough, the PFN analyst went on to acknowledge, and Smith will almost certainly get a deal somewhere in 2025, but probably at a price far below his $13.4 million hit. He agreed that Smith is a luxury the Steelers can afford to cut and reinvest elsewhere. Although Rolfe settled on cutting Smith, he did point out that with all of that, $13.4 million, being owed as salary, the Steelers do have some options if they want to reduce his cap number in 2025 and keep him on the roster for another season. Instead, Pittsburgh could choose to extend or restructure Smith's $37.5 million contract. In an off-season primer shared with Heavy on Steelers, Pro Football Network relayed that Pittsburgh could save $7,496,667, $7.497 million, with a conventional restructure or $8,996,000, $8.996 million, by adding 2 more void years or signing an extension. Over the Cap confirms these financial figures as well, while also reiterating that the Steelers can save the full $13.4 million by releasing Smith prior to June 1. So, as you can see, the major question will be whether or not keeping Smith is worth that extra $4 to $5 million. Either way, expect the Steelers front office to do something about his cap hit prior to free agency. As Ballentine alluded, Smith was seldom called upon down the stretch, and that's when the Steelers' depth was tested the most considering their late-season schedule. After joining Pittsburgh, Smith was on the field for 25 defensive snaps in Week 10 according to Pro Football Focus. The next couple of weeks after that, he played 17 defensive snaps in each game. Then 25 in Week 13, 19 in Week 14 and a Steelers high of 28 in Week 15. At that point, it appeared Smith was gaining head coach Mike Tomlin's trust a bit more, but that didn't continue down the stretch. Smith followed up on the 28-snap outing with just 13 defensive snaps in Week 16 and a Christmas Day scratch in Week 17. He finished the regular season with one of his better performances in Week 18, which included a sack, but then was promptly scratched again in the playoffs as Ballentine mentioned. Based on that lack of trust and usage, it feels much more likely that Smith is cut in 2025, rather than restructured or extended. NFC Foe called on to prioritize Steelers QB Justin Fields in free agency. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's Jerry Dulac has reported the Pittsburgh Steelers will bring back quarterback Justin Fields. But if that doesn't happen before free agency, CBS Sports' Jordan Dajani argued Fields should be in high demand because of an NFC East team. On January 31, Dajani identified Fields as the top free agent priority for the New York Giants this offseason. The Giants could score a quarterback at number 3 overall in the draft, but two QB-needy teams in the Titans and Browns are above them in the order, Dajani wrote. Maybe the Giants could give Fields a chance and then draft Travis Hunter in April. Fields' dual-threat ability is a plus, and he played some of his best football in 2024 with the Steelers. He's ready for another chance to be a starter, and will come cheaper than Sam Darnold. Fields went 4-2 as a starter during 2024. Although he started only 6 games, it was the first time in his 4-year NFL career that he posted a winning record. Fields also won 3 consecutive games for the first time. During 10 appearances in 2024, Fields posted a 65.8% completion percentage while averaging 6.9 yards per attempt. He had 5 touchdown passes and 1 interception. The Giants are just one of several teams who could pursue Fields this offseason. Rumors in January also linked Fields to the New York Jets. However, that was when Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith was still a candidate to be the next Jets head coach. But other teams will likely be interested as well. The 2025 quarterback class is not highly regarded, and there are quite a few teams that will be searching for upgrades behind center. Fields played the best football of his career in a small sample with the Steelers. He didn't light up the game film with highlight reel plays all the time, but he displayed better accuracy and ball control. In addition to his passing statistics, Fields also continued to be a dynamic runner. He rushed for 289 yards, averaging 4.7 yards per attempt, and 5 touchdowns. Any team that doesn't have a long-term solution behind center should be interested in Fields as a bridge quarterback. But Fields is also only 25 years old. With the right opportunity, he could be the next Sam Darnold. Fields didn't do enough in the first 6 weeks of the season to keep starting instead of Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson responds to Raiders rumors. Russell Wilson on Sunday addressed the possibility of winding up with the Las Vegas Raiders in 2025 and reuniting with coach Pete Carroll. Wilson largely dodged questions about his future when speaking to the media at the Pro Bowl games on Saturday. He predicted that Carroll would be successful with the Raiders, but said his focus right now is on remaining with the Pittsburgh Steelers. "I'm looking forward to hopefully going back to the Steelers, and we'll see what happens with the rest," Wilson told Mark Long of the Associated Press. "I love it in Pittsburgh. Pete's going to be a great coach, obviously. He's great at what he does. But I'm focused on the Steelers." For Wilson, the big question is whether the Steelers want him back or not. Some reports have suggested that they prefer Justin Fields to Wilson going forward, which would leave the veteran searching for a new team. The Raiders are an obvious possibility in that scenario, as it has been reported that the issues that plagued Carroll and Wilson at the end of Wilson's Seahawks tenure have been left in the past. Wilson threw for 2,482 yards with 16 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in 11 starts for the Steelers this season. Both he and the team faded badly down the stretch, raising serious questions about his future. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of Russell Wilson? Leave your opinion in the comments.